During that time, there were so many expectations of the Messiah. The expectations were based on prophecies and also just what people wanted out of a leader. In this episode, Jesus asks if the Messiah is supposed to be a military leader. It's difficult to blame the Jewish people for thinking the Messiah was going to be, because the major thing he is to be is a descendant of David. And the question is, in what ways is he going to be like David? You might know the story of David and Goliath. That was just the beginning of his story, and he was already a warrior. He was a king that slayed the enemies of Israel. So when God says that a descendant of David will rule, it's no wonder that people are hoping that he will slay the Romans. 2 Samuel 7:12-16 is where God reveals to David what this offspring will be. Quite frankly, there's so much in that, even reading it in hindsight can be difficult, and for the people in that day, most misinterpreted it. Makes me wonder if we have some wrong interpretations of the prophecy of our time, but that's a discussion for a later date. Anyways, how was Jesus like David? The book that Jesus references the most when referring to himself is the Psalms. The majority of the Psalms were written by David about his own life. The words of David transfigure into the life of Christ. This was something that no one at the time would have guessed, but it's what Jesus used. I'll link down below a list of all the Psalms that are about Jesus. Secondly, like I mentioned, there were expectations on what a Jewish king was supposed to be, how a leader could bring Israel to its former quote-unquote glory. The main influence on people was an event that is not in the Bible, but happened more recently than anything in the Bible. They were expecting a Judah Maccabee. Link of the Wikipedia page down below. This guy led the Jews in a revolt against the Seleucid Empire. He was an example of what the Jews wanted from a Messiah. And so even at the time when Jesus was doing his ministry, there were con messiahs all over the place saying they're building an army and are going to fight Rome. So pretty much every Jew that existed at that time believed that the Messiah was going to be a military figure. Which really speaks to how we are as humans. We want revenge, thinking it's justice. As Jesus said in this episode, justice belongs to God. We think we know what justice is, but only God knows. And God will be pleased with those who are peacemakers.